Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to the show. We're a bit later tonight, but never mind. The Scottish Cup final is still on, and we're looking forward to the game tomorrow at Hampden Park between Celtic and Rangers. Mikey is joining us tonight. How's it going, Mikey? Good to have you on, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Not too bad. Just been enjoying my time off.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're here until 7:30 tonight, not the full 2 hour show. Because Mikey says, can we go away at 7:30? So there you go. So it's Mikey's fault. Get your comments coming in. We're live on Facebook and Twitter and not Twitter. Twitter now. I should get used to that now. It's called X. And you should get your comments coming on about the big game. We're here until 7:30 tonight. First of all, Mikey, I can't believe this is the first final between the big two in Scotland for about 22 years.
Yeah, it's a weird one. You kind of, as soon as the two Old Firm teams get to the final, it just seems like you think it's a bit of a boring, same old final. But yeah, it's been a long time. I think it was 2002, the last one. And yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it'll be, I'll give my predictions and stuff in a bit, but I think there'll be a very intense game as it always is in the Old Firm derby. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah.
Coming up tonight, we have got myself and Mikey, but also we have got somebody from the Rangers forum, Rangers fans website called Alaska Aird. He'll be joining us very soon, hopefully. And also, Regan done a kind of interview this week with Tony Haggerty, even put my teeth in the right way round. So we'll be playing that interview later on in the show tonight. So, before we get into it, we'll be back tomorrow with the cup final with a reaction show, and also Sunday to see who goes up to the who maybe stays in the Premiership actually between Ross County and Raith Rovers. I don't know, Mikey, did you see that game last night?
Yes, I was watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
I think the first half was really poor from both sides. I think that
Yeah.
Ross County probably came out the traps quite well, but then the game really settled in, and it was genuinely one of the worst sort of 20 minutes of football I've seen, sort of like in such an important game this season. Second half, it came alive a bit, but I think that Ross County were much the better side, and I think they'll be very disappointed that they haven't killed this tie already. I think they could have gone in and won that game by 2 or 3 clear goals. Obviously, they've came out 2-1 winners, but they could have came out genuinely 3 or 4-0 at the end of this sort of tie. And I think them going up to Dingwall gives them a massive advantage, especially at such a ridiculous time for the Raith Rovers fans to try and get up. I mean, I think it really sets up a real advantage for Ross County, and them going to Starks Park and winning was very important for them. But for Raith Rovers, I think they had to win the home leg for them to have a chance of going up. But yeah, overall, very disappointing from Raith Rovers, but they should be happy that they've at least got themselves back into the sort of 2-leg thing.
Yeah. Okay. What do you make of the final, Mikey? 12 o'clock on a Sunday. It's a bit unusual for like a final like that.
I mean, yeah, the Sunday part isn't the major surprise for me. I think it's just the timing of it. Having it at 12 o'clock on a Sunday is it's an interesting decision, I'll say that. The away fans are going to really struggle to get up to Dingwall in the numbers, so I'll be very surprised if there's a massive travelling support. But I mean, it's a very weird one, and I think that Ross County obviously have a major advantage with the fact that Raith Rovers they won't have as many fans behind them, and yeah, I think it really sets up a very big advantage for Ross County in the second leg. But yeah, I don't really know why it's been played at that time. Something like a 5:30 kickoff, or at least like a 4 o'clock kickoff or something would have made much more sense in my opinion.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll be back on Sunday after the game as well. And also, we're going to tell you about some exciting shows coming up, Mikey, for the Euro shows as well. So we'll give you that information before we go off air tonight. Right, let's dive into the big enemy, as I say, in Glasgow, between Celtic and Rangers, 3 o'clock kickoff at Hampden Park tomorrow. Um, before we get into the kind of tactical battle on, what area of the park will be important tomorrow, what's your overall view in this game, Mikey?
I think it's a very important game for Rangers because if they go and lose this, then it's a real step backwards for Clermont. But then again, if they go on and win this game, then it gives them a huge boost in the fact that they could possibly start next season well. If they end up only getting one trophy this season from the position they were in, I think it'll be very, very disappointing for them. But I mean, I think that just watching both sides over the last, I'd say even 2 months or so, the gap between the two of them in their sort of abilities and just the form and the performances they've been putting in, Celtic have been miles above them. So if Rangers are to go, if Rangers need a win, it's definitely this one, and if they end up winning it, then it'll really push them on it in the next season because it's before another rebuild. So if they end up getting 2 trophies, then it's not the end of the world for Clermont's first season in charge. But if Celtic go and blow them out the water, then it's definitely been a bit of a disappointing end to the season at least.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of the what do you make of Celtic and Rangers? Obviously, you've seen them a lot this season, Mikey. Um, not at the not at the best form, you would say, but I think Celtic's done kind of like enough as well. And like, I don't know if you heard Graham Souness's comments a week about a gap between the both sides and the gaps closing now. I don't know if he's trying to wind up the Celtic fans or because he's an ex-Rangers manager, he's meant to say that. But what do you think of his comments, Mikey?
Well, I don't think the gap's got much smaller, I'll be honest. I think if he said that in February, then obviously it'd make a lot of sense. But Celtic have gone and won the league by more points than they did last season, so by that sort of logic, it's factually wrong. I mean, Rangers this season since March have been, I'd say, very disappointing. I think that there's been decent performances in there. There's been some very positive performances, but over the course of everything, I think that Celtic have kind of taking the points when it really matters. And I think that Old Firm game in April when Celtic travelled there with the form the Rangers had and the fans behind them, Rangers had to win that game, and that's what's been the sort of turning point, in my opinion. There's obviously been games before that, but I think that's the one that really flipped it in Celtic's favour, not getting beat there. So yeah, I think it's been a very on and off season for Celtic. They've had games where they've played really, really well, and then they've had games where they've been really poor. But I think that for the first season, we can't forget this is the first season under a new manager for them as well. So yeah, I think for Brendan Rodgers' first season back with a completely different squad to what he's used to, he's brought back sort of the classic stuff that he's done in the past when it's just win when it matters, and that's what he's really done. So he's got them over the line, and they can kind of forget about the poor performances in December and sort of February and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, what do you make of like for come on since he's come in? He's done a kind of decent job as well. I think he's saying the right things to maybe buy into this kind of Rangers thing at the moment. But as you know, Mikey, that if they get beat tomorrow, I think. Do you think that they'll be calling for his head? That's what I'm trying to say because he's never beat Celtic before.
Um, I don't think there'll be. I mean, there's obviously going to be fans in every fan base that go completely wild with their opinions and sort of bring out the Rogers out or the Clement out or the Montgomery out after one loss. But I mean, I think that if they end up getting battered in this game, then there will be question marks because of obviously the sort of games before this. But I don't think that there will be a massive amount of them wanting them out. And I don't think it'll be a 5 or 6-0 game, which is probably what it'd take for a lot of the fans to start turning on him. But I will say that if he starts next season badly, then the question marks will probably mount, because there's kind of this thing in football where you get your transfer windows, and then if you're going into the next season and start playing really badly, then the question marks start coming up. But I think Clement's done a decent enough job. He's not done anything wildly wrong, in my opinion. There's obviously been poor games, but I think for his first season in the door, he hasn't done a bad job. The new manager bounce really carried them up to the top of the league, and since then they're probably where they should be based on the squad that they've got. They've got the second best team in the league, and that's pretty simple. So yeah, I think he's done about as well as the squad would say. But if they end up recruiting poorly in the summer and start next season badly, then there will probably be questions here.
So at this part of the show, I would like to introduce a Rangers fan and social media, Alaska Aird, to the show. Brilliant to have you on, Alaska. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on, Michael.
Yep. And also we are obviously here to talk about tomorrow's game. We got Mikey's initial thoughts about Rangers and Phil Clement, as you probably heard there before you come on. What do you think of, before we talk about the game tomorrow, Alaska, what do you think of Clement's job so far?
I think it's been pretty impressive. I think he inherited a squad of players who were pretty much rock bottom after a pretty poor start to the season under Michael Beale. Then galvanised the squad to an extent that we finished top of the Europa League group, qualified for the last 16. I think it was 11 wins in the sprint at one point. But I think on reflection now, and I wrote it in one of the pieces, I think it was for the Dundee game the other week there, with the benefit of hindsight, we probably were punching above our weight during that spell. I think to pick up what Mikey was saying earlier, the squad isn't as strong as probably what you would expect a Rangers squad to be. But I think Clement deserves a huge amount of credit for managing to get a tune out of several players who were pretty short of the standards you would expect. But he's got a huge job ahead of him in the summer. Michael Beale obviously came in and was given a huge amount of money. Well, in context, was given a huge amount of money to spend to rebuild the squad last summer. But I think there will be a similar exercise this year. Probably not as wholesale as what a lot of people are trying to say. But the core of the squad does need some significant work done on it. But I think the manager deserves his opportunity to get through the transfer window. But Mikey mentioned it as well in terms of poor start to the season, that obviously there's Champions League qualifiers in there, and we all know how lucrative the Champions League group stages are, irrespective of how Rangers and Celtic will perform in there financially. Qualifying for the group stages for both clubs is pretty significant. So I think if he was to, or if we were to lose the game tomorrow, I don't think we will, incidentally, but if we were to lose the game tomorrow and then potentially be bounced out the Champions League qualifiers, that's the time where you would expect there would probably be some pressure on the manager. But I think the spell he had after he came in October through to the Motherwell defeat at Ibrox, I think he deserves the opportunity to lead us into next season. And I think to pick up on some of the points he's made with injuries and whatever at the time, that and a wee bit of a change in our mindset may well have been a different discussion. We may well have been looking at Rangers going for the treble tomorrow. And I think to pick up, when I was backstage there, you were talking about Graham Souness. I happen to agree. I don't think the gap's as big as what it was. Also to align with something that Ali McCoy said in TalkSport during the week, it's two very average Old Firm teams, if we're being brutally honest. Celtic have just managed to get themselves across the line, and probably because they've just got probably just because they've got a better squad, and they've got that winning mentality that Rangers haven't historically, or certainly recently had. So looking forward to tomorrow. I think it's an opportunity for this Rangers team, perhaps the last dance for quite a few of the players, just to go out with a bit of a bang.
Just to pick you up there, Alaska, about the you know, basically what Graham Souness was saying during the week, obviously you're expecting him to come out and say that because he's an ex-Rangers man. I think he still is a Rangers man, an ex-manager as well. But do you not think, I know what you were saying about the both teams are kind of average this season, but do you think Celtic's got that bit more, a wee bit more, just because that they've been over the course a few times and, you know,
they've got that mentality. There was a couple of games. I think Celtic went to Easter Road, and I think Adam Ida scored a penalty in the last minute, and they went to Motherwell, and they were at one each with Motherwell deep into stoppage time, and they turned that around. And there's 6 points rather than potentially 2. There's a 4-point difference in there, and I know it's ended up 8 points at the end, but at that time of the season when Rangers were playing well and getting results, those 2 results in particular probably tipped the scales. And again, that's where that winning mentality, that sort of winning mindset that Celtic have pretty much cultivated over the last few years, they have that. And when Rangers did wobble, and I mentioned the Motherwell game earlier, I think that's probably where the rot started to set in terms of the tail end of the season. When Rangers did wobble, they did need it. I felt that the big players in the squad, like say James Taverniers, John Lundstrom's, etc., didn't have that same sort of mentality to go, you know, it's just a blip. We move on to next week. And unfortunately, after Ross County and Dundee away, we fell away in terms of a championship challenge, and it looked at one point that we were going to take it to the wire, but wasn't to be, unfortunately.
Mike, do you think as well that I know if you ask any old firm fan, they would say, "Oh, you know, we're out for winning." But do you think this game's more important for Rangers as well because they can win the double? You know, but also Philip Clement hasn't beat Celtic yet in any competition. So is it more important to Rangers tomorrow to finish off in a bit of a high, you would say, going into the next season?
No, I think the pressure's on both. I think it always is in an Old Firm derby. I think, obviously, you say Rangers are going for the double, Celtic are going for the double, which is, going for the league and Scottish Cup is probably, I think we can all agree, is more impressive than going for the League Cup and the Scottish Cup, just on the amount of games that you play. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of pressure on both sides. I will admit for Clement there might be a bit more pressure as he's still yet to beat Celtic, but there's pressure on Brendan Rodgers as well because his record against Rangers is really, really good. So yeah, there's pressure on both sides, and there always will be for an Old Firm derby. But I think the pressure is not quite mounting yet from the Rangers fans on Clement for the Old Firm derby win, as much as it maybe would be because it's not his squad. So he's kind of working with other tools, if you know what I mean. So I think there is pressure there, but there always will be. So I think there's about as much pressure each way.
Alistair, they've been talking the week about James Tavernier. Maybe this is his last swan song going out, and maybe well, we all know about John Lundstrom as well. In fact, I don't know if it's very fair for the fans, basically to turn around and say, don't play him tomorrow or else we'll get beat. I know that he made a mistake in the last game at Parkhead, but I've never known any fans, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, who come out and say, don't play him or else we'll get beat. What do you think of the fans, these comments there?
Listen, fans of any club can be incredibly fickle at times. John Lundstrom, for spells after Philippe Clement took over, was reminiscent of the John Lundstrom that we had in the run to Seville. He was dictating games, he was running games from midfield, and his form was shaded. Whether that's as a result of his head being turned because his contract's up and he's been talking to teams, supposedly a move to Turkey and whatever, I don't know. But I'm a big advocate of you play your best players, particularly in a match like this. And as a holding midfielder, John Lundstrom's probably the best holding midfielder that Rangers have got in their squad. He arguably has a point to prove. He went out to try and prove his point a wee bit too forcefully a couple of weeks ago, but he's now got another opportunity. If he's selected tomorrow, he's got another opportunity to go out and probably put a nice kind of silver lining on his time with Rangers, which has been a bit up and down. It's been a bit inconsistent. When Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came in, he was out the team, he was out of favour. Gio brought him back in and managed to find a niche in the team for him. As I say, he was excellent in the run to Seville. He then dipped in form again and picked it up when Clement came in. So I'll be interested to see what the selection is tomorrow, because I think, excuse me, I'm sorry, I think we're in a position where there are so many injuries, and Clement was very guarded in his press conference in terms of he wasn't going to reveal who was fit. He did say he would take some risks, so I expect guys like Abdallah Sima, who's not 100% fit, to probably play. But it'll be interesting to see what he does in midfield. It's the area that has arguably tipped the scales in the favour of Celtic in the 3 Old Firm games this season. Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate, Matt O'Reilly have dictated those games. So that for me is the key area of the team for selection tomorrow, for Philippe Clement. And if you've got Lundstrom coming in, and it's the Thursday night Lundstrom that we had in the run to Seville, I don't think there's a better option. But I can understand the fans being concerned and the fans expressing their dismay. I saw a post earlier today saying that if he picks Lundstrom tomorrow, then that puts him under an incredible amount of pressure and shows that he's resistant to change. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, but it was very key. Another statement in his press conference was he doesn't. His team selection is not dictated by the fans, and I think that was a kind of thinly veiled swipe to say, look, John Lundstrom's probably going to play, and I would be surprised if he doesn't play. Whether I think it's the right decision, I'll wait and see tomorrow. But if we get, from a Rangers perspective, if we get an on-form John Lundstrom, then it may well be a pivotal selection tomorrow.
They were saying that as well, Alistair, that there's going to be a big fee out at Ibrox after tomorrow's game. I'm going to maybe put you on the spot here because I like doing this. Who do you think they will get rid of, and who do you think they will keep for next season?
There's the obvious ones, the guys that are out of contract. So Ryan Jack's out of contract. I think Ryan Jack, if we could keep Ryan Jack injury free, for me, being the team every week, I think he excels in the number 6 role, and he can also play as a number 8. But I think he'll go. Kamal Roof, I think, has already said his goodbyes. Another one who probably the best finisher at the club, but we can't keep him fit. Lundstrom, I think, I don't think there's any kind of. There's not going to be. If you remember a couple of years ago, after Seville, Connor Goldson was out of contract. Never expected Connor Goldson would go in the summer. Then it was announced out of the blue he had a 4-year deal. I don't see the same thing happening with Lundstrom. In terms of the other kind of areas of the team where there's been rumours about Tavernier and Goldson going to Saudi Arabia, if the offer's right, I think from both sides, I'd be tempted. Tavernier's numbers going forward are absolutely phenomenal in terms of goals and assists, but defensively, and particularly in Old Firm games, you look at the goals that Rangers concede in Old Firm games, he doesn't get tight enough on Celtic's wide players, and we lose a lot of goals down those sides. So defensively, I don't think James Tavernier is anywhere near as good as he should be as a right back. So Stephen Gerrard's talking about adding experience to his team. So if there was a decent offer come in, I'd be tempted with Tavernier. And Goldson as well has done very well for us, but his dip in form this season coincided with Rangers' dip in form as well. So I'd be tempted to listen to offers for Goldson. I don't think there will be the wholesale changes that a lot of Rangers supporters are looking for, because you can't make that number of changes and then have to integrate potentially double figures new players into your squad in a very, very short period of time. There's not going to be a lot of turnaround here before these huge Champions League qualifiers come online. So I think there will be a number of changes, but perhaps not as many as what a lot of people think there will be.
Graham, what's your thoughts about tomorrow's game?
I don't really see anything other than Celtic to win, because they're just a bit stronger than Rangers. But I think, sorry, as the cat just scrolls across my screen. But the last time I did the kind of Old Firm preview for the Celtic Rangers game at Parkhead, you asked me about where I think the battle's going to be won, and I said midfield. I think that'll be the same, but Alice is going to touch on what I was going to say as well. Tavernier has a real problem with Maeda. Every time Maeda plays against him, it absolutely hammers him. And you look at the game at Ibrox, 20 seconds in, I think Tavernier thinks he's got plenty of time, but doesn't realise Maeda's right behind him. And you know what Maeda's going to do? He's going to press, he's going to harry, he's going to be all over him. And Tavernier has a real issue when it comes against Maeda. He just can't seem to get the best of him. So I think that could be a big, big key tomorrow. I think midfield will still be a massive, massive area because Celtic do tend to win that. But I think Tavernier's going to have to do something against Maeda because Maeda always seems to have his number. I don't know why it is, but Maeda just always seems to have something over Tavernier. That has to be sorted tomorrow for Rangers to have any chance, I think.
It's that mentality thing again, Graham. I think Tavernier knows going into these games now that he hasn't dealt particularly well with Maeda in the past, and he doesn't seem to have that mindset where it is a clean slate tomorrow. It is a different game, and he has that opportunity to learn from his mistakes. But you mentioned 20 seconds into the game at Ibrox, he gets closed down. Celtic go 1-0 up. Even for the second goal at Parkhead, the own goal, he's not tight enough in Maeda. He doesn't close the cross down. Gives Maeda the time to pull the ball down out there, take 2 or 3 touches and pick his cross. That again sort of reinforces the point I was trying to make about Tavernier's defensive qualities. So Brendan Rodgers, relatively straightforward for him tomorrow. It is funnel the ball if he can to Maeda and get it Tavernier. But in a roundabout way, there's also an opportunity there for Clement to say to his captain, look, see tomorrow, first challenge, first opportunity you get tight and you make a challenge, and he sort of tries to put a marker down and shows I'm not going to be messed with today. But I would agree that that's going to be an area tomorrow that could be or may well be pivotal if Tavernier allows Maeda to dictate him as he's done in the past.
I think the other thing I would say as well, we talk about this guy all the time, but obviously I'm a Hearts fan, so I was watching the Hearts Rangers game last week. Cyril Dessers missed 4 or 5 glorious chances to really put Hearts to the bed last week. He didn't do it. Now, tomorrow's a massive, massive game. Yes, Rangers need everybody to turn up, but they're going to need Cyril Dessers. He might not get many chances. If he gets a couple of chances, they're going to have to take them. Because if he doesn't, then he doesn't give Rangers any real opportunity. He's got to take these chances because he misses. I know he's got 20 goals this season, which is fine, but in the bigger games, he misses far too many opportunities.
So he's on 22 goals, and I think had he been a bit more of a rounded centre forward, he should have probably had 30 plus. He's been touching the numbers that Shankland has got this season. He takes far too many touches in the box at times when take a touch, get the ball at your feet and hit it. And I actually got a message last weekend when Shankland opened the scoring for Hearts. I think he did so just after Dessert had missed a very straightforward chance. And Shankland just showed what a number 9 should do. Got the ball, got it down, headed for goal and scored. But Dessers has it in him, and that's the frustration. There is a bit of an enigma about him where you see him at times taking his chances. You look at his goal he scored in Betis, or against Betis, where he does take those 2 or 3 touches inside the box, and it's a terrific finish. But there's other times when he gets similar situations and he does it again, and then he takes that extra touch and then he gives the defender the opportunity to close down. When you're up against guys like Scales and Carter Vickers, you don't get a lot of space. You don't get that opportunity to dictate or to take those touches. So there's a lot of pressure on him tomorrow. As you say, Graham, he's 22 goals this season, which is a good return for a centre forward. But in those big games, he obviously got the goal at Parkhead, but and scored a couple in the semi-final. But there will be pressure on him tomorrow, and he's got to respond as well. He does do very well. I've watched him a couple of times in isolation this season, and he's not just your stereotypical number 9. He does a lot of running off the ball. He creates a lot of space for other people. But centre forwards are judged on the chances they have and the chances they take, and he's come up short too many times this season, unfortunately.
What's your thoughts on Todd Campbell, Alistair? Because he divides a lot of opinion from every set of supporters. He divides a lot of opinion. What's your thoughts on him?
I want him to stay off social media or refine his social media presence. I think Todd Cantwell on his game is the best number. Is one of the best number 10s in Scotland or playing in Scotland. His second half performance against Dundee, albeit a dead rubber the other week, he was absolutely exceptional. But again, there have been a number of occasions this season when we played Limassol in Europe. He was substituted after half an hour. It was the same, I think, in the League Cup semi-final. Clement substituted him very early. He has that sort of attitude about him where he sort of swaggers about the place at times, and that doesn't happen in Scottish football. You don't get to do that in Scottish football. But when he does switch on and he is on his game, he's one of the few players in this Rangers squad who has the giggle and the creativity to unlock defences, and I think he has to start tomorrow. But what version of Todd Cantwell turns up remains to be seen. I hope it's the one that we witnessed a week or so ago in that midweek game against Dundee. But there's every possibility that Callum McGregor can get in about him, can wind him up, and there will be a reaction. And it might not very well be a positive reaction from a Rangers perspective. But as a player, I like him. I think his performances between January and June January and May last year when we brought him in, he was absolutely phenomenal. He was exceptional on a number of occasions. We just haven't seen that enough this season.
I just want to ask Alistair, because I know you've only got a few minutes left before you've got to go, and I appreciate you coming on to the show tonight. But leaving the Rangers injuries behind, because I know Clement's been mentioning that from maybe December or maybe before. But do you think the problem with this Rangers team is you can actually guess the Celtic team tomorrow, but you can't guess the Rangers team?
I think that there's an element of that. Clement's made a lot of changes, even during that spell where Rangers went 1-11 in the bounce. He was changing the team. He was tinkering with the team, even in terms of where players are playing. Fabio Silva that's come in and loan and ostensibly as a number 10, but he's played wide left. He's had to play wide left because of the injury problems that Rangers have had. But I don't think. Well, I can understand Clement in his press conference during the week playing his cards close to his chest. He's normally very open and normally very good with the media in terms of such and such is injured or such and such is available. He didn't do that during the week, and I think that's because perhaps he doesn't even know what his 11 is going to be right up to the last minute. I don't necessarily think that's to do with injuries. I think there's a mentality thing as well. You look at left back, Red Van Yilmaz is supposedly injured again, but for me, I'm not playing Borna Barisic at left back tomorrow, because his mentality in these games in the past has been questionable. His bottle has crashed on a number of occasions. So I think the manager's got a significant amount of thinking to do tonight. I don't think probably as we sit here just now, I don't think he'll have settled in his 11. As you say, Michael, Brendan Rodgers has probably got his 11 sorted and has probably built his team. But I think
do you think that's part of the problem, Alistair? That why Rangers hasn't been consistent this season?
But it's symptomatic of when you bring a manager in, or when a manager comes in partway through a season, he's not working with players that he's signed. So he's inherited the squad that, to all intents and purposes, the core of the squad. You look at like Tavernier, you look at Goldson, you look at Lundstrom. They're Steven Gerrard signings, and guys that Steven Gerrard brought in. So the core of the team has been there for about 3 or 4 seasons. He hasn't had the opportunity, and that's why he gets the summer transfer window, Champions League qualifiers, and probably the January transfer window as well, to put his own stamp on it. He made a statement a number of months back that at his previous clubs he's had 90% player availability, and I was flabbergasted when he said that, because I don't remember at any stage in my time following Rangers a manager having 90% player availability. But if he can get to that stage where he can come up with a fitness program or a training program where he gets that sort of level of fitness from his squad and he puts his own stamp on it, that makes a difference. But when you're working with players who he'll have formed his opinion on the players very, very quickly, and he probably knows that he's going to have to rely on players tomorrow that won't be in the building when they report back for pre-season training. So that's one of the challenges you get. He gets the opportunity to start afresh, hit the ground running. in July or August time, and that's when he should really be judged, fully judged. I know Mikey said earlier about the amount of pressure he would be under if there was a significant hiding tomorrow. I don't think there will be a significant hiding, as much as probably with the exception of the second half of the game a couple of weeks ago, there hasn't really been much between the teams. Certainly in the 3 games that Clemont's been in charge of. I remember the game in December when Rangers got back to 2-1. Get into the last minute, Tom Lawrence broke into the box, James Tavernier was free at the back post, and Lawrence picks the wrong option. And even in the 3H game, Dessers gets a chance a couple of minutes after that. And these are things that can turn it. And he's, as I said earlier, he's managed to get a tune out of a squad of players who, the atmosphere at Ibrox in the Aberdeen game, Michael Beale's last game in charge, was horrible. And the fact that Clemont's managed to lift that squad of players, get them to a position where at one point we were favourites to win the title, is quite remarkable. So I think he deserves the chance to get that fresh start tomorrow in July. But you mentioned earlier about the last Old Firm Cup final 22 years ago. Rangers did the double that season as well, and we also had a manager coming in partway through a season. Alex McLeish came in December to replace Dick Advocat, and he won the League Cup and he won the Scottish Cup, and that was the foundation for a treble. We weren't particularly great in the league that season. Will history repeat itself? I'm not saying for a minute that I believe Clement will win a treble next season, but getting the Scottish Cup tomorrow gives him a platform. He's got enough credit in the bank, I guess is what I'm saying, irrespective of the result tomorrow. But if he ends the season with 2 cups, I think it puts us in a really good place for next season.
See last week, Alistair, just got to say, even though the game meant nothing, was a dead rubber, I actually thought Rangers' best player, and probably best player in the park at the time, was Ross McCausland. If you are Philip Clement, is he a guaranteed starter tomorrow? Because he's got something a bit different. He's got a bit of pace. He's got a bit of ability. Would he be a starter tomorrow?
I'm not sure, and the only reason I'm not sure is because of what he said about taking risks. For me, and Michael, you mentioned earlier about injuries and Clement leaning in injuries. Abdallah Sima playing down the right-hand side was a huge miss. When he pulled his hamstring, he's been a huge miss. I can see him taking a risk there tomorrow. If he takes a risk with Sima, then Sima plays in front of McCausland. Whether he chooses to then play McCausland on the left and have him cutting in onto his right-hand side, I don't know. But I thought he was given, as a number of players were given that opportunity last weekend, and he took his goal very well and had a very good game. Guaranteed starter? I don't think so. But he merits being in the discussion, not just on the basis of his performance last weekend, but on the basis of a number of his performances this season.
Mikey, from a Celtic point of view, how do you think that they will approach this game tomorrow, knowing that the league's in the bag and they're also going for a double? But I think that if you're asking the Celtic fans back in December, then they would laugh at you. I mean, they even booed Santa at Christmas, you know, even though I was nice of Santa to come back last week, you know, he must be roasting wearing that Santa suit. But anyway, that's another thing for another show. But yeah, what do you think of Celtic since maybe the turn of the year?
I think the main point for them is that they pick up points when they're not playing well. When Rangers aren't playing well, they drop points. That's what's changed the title, in my opinion. You look at Hibs at Easter Road, and as much as I'll say there wasn't penalties or whatever, they got the job done in the end. Games where they've been struggling, they've got points out of it. The Motherwell game as well comes to mind. There's quite a lot of them where it's looking as though it's going to be a difficult game, a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 draw, for example, and they pull something out of the bag. And that's what champions do, and that's just how it is. I think that Celtic came into the league with the best squad in the league. I think they have the best team in the league, and they've done what they should, in my opinion. And I think they'll go into this final with the confidence that they can go and win it, because they've had Rangers' number this season, and they have for quite a number of seasons now, apart from the one in April last year. So I think Celtic will go into it with confidence, and I think they are across the board, they are very much the favourites for this game. And as much as I'm maybe not the biggest fan of either of them, I think that Celtic are probably probably going to be the favourites to go out and win the cup tomorrow. But I'm not ruling Rangers out because you never know. But yeah, I think the Celtic have got the advantage with the midfield and obviously the Maeda on Tavernier thing. I think that there's a lot of areas in the park where Celtic have Rangers like on this, so if they have the advantage. So I think that if you're going to pick a winner now before a ball's been kicked, Celtic are definitely the favourites.
Brendan Rodgers said he got his first press conference back in August. Jerks me at the end of May. Now, I was speaking to a couple of Rangers fans. Andy was on the show the other week. He was saying that Brendan Rodgers showed a bit of disrespect. I don't think he did, to be honest with you. I think like that was a benchmark of Rangers could say, well, if that's what you think, well, we're going to take the league off you and stuff. So do you think that the Celtic fans have basically turned on Brendan Rodgers again to say like he's a man, because when they come in that there was a lot of abuse going about towards him, especially the way that he left, going away to Leicester.
4 months ago, after Hearts beat Celtic at Celtic Park, Celtic fans wanted Rodgers out. They wanted the boards out. They wanted half the players out. It's amazing how things quickly change. You know, had Rangers won the games that they should have won, then Rangers would be winning the title. And that's just the way it's happened. Rangers just haven't managed to get over the line. Celtic have. But I don't think Celtic have been outstanding. Their best performance is probably Kilmarnock last week. But I don't think they've been fantastic. They've had people have had chances against them in pretty much every game. Hearts have beat them again at Tynecastle. So there have been chances there for other teams, but they've just managed to get their job done. But like I say, just go back 4 months. Celtic fans wanted that board out. They wanted Rodgers out. Things can change very, very quickly. So I still think, yes, they won the title, fine. But I don't think Celtic have been outstanding this season, but they've got the job done. And if they don't win tomorrow, yes, they won the league title, but Rangers can win a double tomorrow, which would be massive for Philip Kilmarnock's first season. So again, and it is an if Celtic get beat tomorrow, I can see Celtic fans again getting on Rodgers' back, getting on the board's back. That's just the way football fans are. We're very fickle. I'm the same. We all are. But like I said, it wasn't that long ago that Celtic fans wanted them out. So things can change very quickly.
Before we speak more about the game tomorrow, let's see an interview that Reagan done during the week that he spoke to Tony Haggerty from the Celtic Way about the game tomorrow. So here, Reagan talked to Tony.
Welcome you to a special edition of The Locker Room. And I'm joined by Tony Haggerty from the Celtic Way. Thank you for joining me, Tony.
Pleasure as always, Regan. How are you, sir? Long time no speak.
I'm doing well. Tony, what's your thoughts on the season so far for Celtic?
I think Brendan Rodgers did a marvellous job with the team in general, hasn't he? I think if anyone doubting Brendan Rodgers' commitment to the Celtic cause, then doubt no more. You look at the semi-final, you know, they were susceptible to the cross ball from Aberdeen, get caught cold first few minutes, and then 2 bread and butter cross balls allowed Aberdeen back into the game twice. So there is an element of Hampden just, you really need to bring your A game at Hampden, because you can get caught out. The occasion can become too much. It can overawe some players. But I just feel now that Celtic will get the bit between the teeth and they want this leading cup double, and you see them, they're all desperate to do it for the various side plots like Joe Hart, things like that, and they want to do it for the manager as well, to say, right, you're back, you're back in more ways than one. At this moment in time, Celtic possess a better squad of players than Rangers. They're a better team than Rangers, and they play better football than Rangers.
Yep.
But none of that equates to success on May the 25th. But what I will say is, you can't bet against a Celtic team winning a cup final on May the 25th. And
No,
the historical reverence of that. I mean, it's a hallowed, sacred day, and it would put everybody on a bit of a downer heading into the summer if Celtic lost a cup final on May the 25th. But that's the challenge for the other side, isn't it? They will want to put that spanner and spoke in the wheel by saying, do you know what? You know, we're going to win this cup and give you food for thought over the summer. So it's got the ingredients of being a right cracking game, Regan. But if Celtic turn up, for me, if Celtic turn up and play like the way they have done in the past few weeks, they win.
I need to get your prediction for the Scottish Cup final. Have you got a prediction there, Tony?
You put me right on the spot, aren't you? I'm pretty good at predictions, actually. We used to write our predictions in the newspaper when I worked for the newspaper, and I wasn't far away. And one of the ones I particularly got spot on was the 2016 Scottish Cup final. And I said it would be a repeat of the 1979 Scottish Cup final, only this time Hibs would win 3-2. And I nailed it. And I encourage people. I encourage people to put money on it, but
I'll be going you for a bet.
Bet responsibly, I said. But yeah, I won a few quid that day when Henderson delivered and Sir David Gray scored. I was trying to keep my shape in the press box, but I realised I'd won a few quid because it was quite a lot of money to win. Yeah, so, but my prediction, if you're asking me, I'm going to say 3-1 Celtic. Regan?
3-1?
3-1, yeah.
I think I would say 2-0.
2-0 Celtic, you going for a 2-0 Celtic, yeah.
Yeah, 2-0 Celtic.
And I always, whenever I do that, I always put something on it, you know, because you always say to yourself, I said that and I wrote that down, but I never put any money on it. So I'll put something on it, just a token gesture, and see what happens. But yeah, that was one in particular that sticks out in my mind. That we used to have the predictions in the Daily Record, and all the journalists would predict what would happen. And yeah, I remember getting that one spot on, and I just found it all. I mean, I just thought that if you kick the door, it eventually opens. I just thought it was Hibs' time. You know, Rangers were still making their way back up the leagues, weren't they, at that point, I believe. So,
aye.
And you know, they'd beaten Celtic as a championship club in the semi-final, and I just felt that they'd had their luck on in this competition in that particular year. So yeah, I got that one spot on, and I've had a couple others spot on as well. So it's so I'll say 3-1 Celtic and see what it takes us.
Could you have noticed the smile on Mikey's face when he mentioned Hibs there? Couldn't they smile that?
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, that was Tony Haggerty. Thanks for giving us your time, Tony. Talked to Regan during the week, and if you don't know by now, Tony worked for the Celtic Way as well. So and Sanskrit Alaska Aird. He writes for Rangers Fan Media. So thanks for joining us on the show. The point I was trying to make, Graham, to Alaska, and I think it was because Celtic's been on this course so many times. They've had so many experienced players. I mean, Callum McGregor was talking this week about he's actually disappointed that the season finished because he's still getting his fitness back, because obviously it was out half of the season due to injury. But do you feel as though that Celtic's been over this course before, and they've had experienced players talking about Callum McGregor? James Forrest came from nowhere this season, and look, he's gone to the Euros with Scotland. I mean, like, you know, he's only played he's played a vital part for Celtic in the running of games. And I was trying to make the point to Alaska that, you know, Celtic has got a settled squad, you know, who's going to be in the team tomorrow for Celtic, but you don't really know what's who's going to be fit, who's going to make the squad for Rangers tomorrow. Do you think that's the difference between the both sides at the moment?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think you pretty much guarantee Celtic side already tomorrow. I think you pretty much know what it's going to be. And Celtic are serial winners. You know, they've pretty much winning everything apart from the League Cup this season that Rangers managed to win. But they are serial winners. And I've heard a lot of Rangers fans accusing Rangers of being serial bottlers, which I understand. And they've got to put that right tomorrow. You know, if they can win a cup double, yes, it's not the league, but if they can win a cup double, then at least it's something to kind of give a bit of confidence to the squad going forward. But I think Alistair's right. You could probably pick a few of the Rangers team tomorrow, but you couldn't pick the whole 11. Whereas Celtic, I think you can pretty much guarantee what it'll be if everyone's fit. So that is a big thing. And, you know, one-off games are very difficult. But I just think if Celtic are up for it tomorrow, which I think they will be, then I really don't see another winner. And I think as well, I don't know if I said this the last time as well, the one thing that has to happen tomorrow, Rangers need to keep 11 men on the park. You know, they can't lose their discipline. You know, they can't afford to do what Lundstrom did in the last Old Firm game and slide in like that. They've got to keep 11 men on the park to give themselves any chance. So that's a big thing as well tomorrow. But again, like I said about the game on Sunday for the Raith Rovers Ross County game, I think the first goal is crucial tomorrow. I think if Celtic get it and get it early, I can see them winning quite comfortably. If Rangers get it, then it gives them a bit of a platform to build on. But that first goal could be crucial.
Mikey, how different would it be tomorrow? Because obviously you've got 50-50 supporters there. Whereas before that, if you were going to Parkhead at Ibrox, you'll have no fans. Well, apart from that season, you'll have a handful of fans. But how important would that be for Rangers as well? But also crucially, like if they don't go off to a good start, they'll be on your back. The same as Celtic, you would say as well.
I just think that a lot of these players, especially from the Celtic side, they've been in this situation before with the 50-50 split against Rangers. I think having more fans there obviously does make a positive impact, but I don't think it's as clear cut as people might think. I think that if one team comes and plays their way, then they'll. I'll say, for example, Celtic, who I think are the better team at the moment, if they come in and play their way, regardless of whether they have half the stadium or a quarter of the stadium or a third of the stadium, they'll get the result over the line. I think that the fans can really drive you on and get on your back, but at the same time, I think that a lot of the I think that the 50-50 will benefit, but I don't think it's as big of a factor as it might be sort of made out to be.
Brendan Rodgers said at the press conference, it's always a difficult challenge whether it's at Hampden or Parkhead or Ibrox that the game is, but we need to focus on ourselves and win it. We come on to this game on fire and we're playing well, and if we win it, it will be an excellent season because we won the double. I think you could maybe say that about someone as well winning the double, but I don't think overall it has been an excellent season for Rangers.
No, I mean, it promised a treble not that long ago, and then they couldn't go over the line. But winning a cup double in his first season isn't a disaster. Yes, they want the title, of course they do. Celtic and Rangers, that's all they want is the title. And especially with the guaranteed Champions League money, what, £60 million, I think it is Celtic will get? I mean, that's huge. And that's what I said last week. That's a worry for every team. Hearts, Rangers, Hibs, whoever. Celtic will just get stronger and stronger without European money. And it's going to get even worse to try and challenge them. But if Rangers can at least win a double tomorrow, then it will go some way to kind of making up for losing the league. But it's going to be difficult. You know, it really is going to be difficult because if Celtic turn up and play the way that they can, then I don't really see Rangers winning the game. And Tony's prediction might be right. I just don't see any way that Rangers win that game tomorrow. They've not won a game against Celtic all season. For them suddenly to win the Scottish Cup, it's going to be very difficult, and I just don't see it.
Mikey, Karen McGregor was up doing the press yesterday at Hampden, and basically he was saying that, as I say, he's disappointed because the season's finished because he's starting to get his fitness back. Well, got to German and scored a few goals. But also he says we are full of confidence going into the game and we can win the double. But I think I think it would be the opposite from a Rangers kind of like point of view, because I don't think they've been very confident in their shows and in all the games this season.
No, I don't think they have, and I think that the sort of confidence aspect will play a big part. I think that Celtic have been the better side over the course of the season. They were coming into this game with more confidence, and I think the very important thing to sort of think about this game is that I know Alistair said that there's not been a lot of Old Firm games, but I mean, if you look at the first half of the game at Ibrox, Celtic were all over Rangers. Could have been 3 or 4-0 up at half time. The one a few weeks ago in the 2-1 game, Celtic could have been 3 or 4-0 up at half time. Like the games seem to fluctuate in terms of who's on top, but when Celtic are on top, they could score time and time again. Butland's kept Rangers in many a derby this season. So I think that as soon as if Rangers end up conceding early, the heads could drop, and then if Celtic start playing their way, I don't see any way the Rangers live with it, because I think there's been multiple examples this season that when Celtic are kind of moving the ball around and having a bit of confidence and have the fans behind them, or even if they didn't have the fans there at Ibrox, when Celtic are playing at their best and playing their way, Rangers just can't deal with it. And I think that, as Graham said, and as everyone's really said, the first goal is so important, because if the first goal comes early for Celtic, then it could be a landslide. But if Rangers end up getting the first goal, they can grow in confidence in the game and potentially even try and win the game. But for me, I don't see a world in which Rangers win this game. I think Celtic are levels above them at the moment, and I think that it will be. I'll get onto my prediction, but I don't think it'll be a particularly close game.
Graham, talking about James Forrest, because I mean he's been crucial in the past couple of weeks, and I suppose like. Obviously, we're here to talk about the game tomorrow, but like, I think that's the difference at the moment, because James Forrest has been there since he was 15, I think it was, and coming through the ranks. But I don't think Rangers has got anybody of that. So do you think that experience is crucial?
Absolutely. I mean, who saw that weeks ago that James Forrest would probably be a starter for Celtic now? But the way he's been playing recently, and the fact he's in the Euros and deserves to be going as well, I think experience counts for a lot. You know, I talk about serial winners, and James Forrest is one of them. You know, I think if you're a Celtic fans weeks ago, who would be your standout the last few weeks? I don't think they would have said James Forrest, because it looked like he was probably going to be going, and he's been fantastic. And I think his experience in these kind of games as well is going to be really crucial tomorrow. And yeah, Rangers, they do have experience there with the likes of Tavernier, Lundstrom and stuff, but that forward area, they don't really have that. And that's going to be, that could be really crucial tomorrow. James Forrest is definitely someone that can cause a lot of problems to that Rangers team. And he has done over the years that he's been there. Rangers don't really have that. I talked about McCall's and Dell about this young laddie. Seamer's just coming back from injury. Fabio Silva, I don't think has been a particularly great signing, if I'm going to be honest. And the whole thing about the kind of telling people what his name is on the back of his shirt when he's scoring in a meaningless game, I don't get that at all. Fabio Silva needs to play well tomorrow. All Rangers players have to play well tomorrow. I talked about Dessers earlier. He's got to play well. Celtic can have an off day and still win. Rangers have an off day, they've got no chance, because there's nobody else that's going to step up. And that's a big difference for me.
Mikey, I think the only difference in the Celtic squad is, Graham was saying earlier on, you can actually pick it, but I think the only one is debatable at the moment is Kyogo or Ida up front for Celtic, and that's it tomorrow. Apart from that, you can pick the squad. I do think Kyogo will start, because he's got a brilliant record against Rangers. But what do you think of that tomorrow?
What the Kyogo and Adamida?
Yep.
Well, I personally think that Kyogo is a very, very good player. I think he's better than Ida. And with Adamida, I've said this before, when he was at Easter Road, he played really poorly. I know he got the 2 goals, but like over the course of the game, he missed 3 or 4 sitters. He's picked up a lot, but I don't think he's the player Kyogo is. He's not as prolific, and I think that I don't think they'll be getting him back. I don't think they'll be trying to re-sign him again. But I think that Ida would add something off the bench if Celtic are struggling. But yeah, I think Kyogo has to start because he's going to cause so many more problems to that Rangers defence with the pace he has in behind, which I think will benefit more against the sort of centre backs of Rangers, which I assume. I mean, I think Suter will play in, and the other one's really up for grabs. So it's a difficult one, but I think that Kyogo should probably. I think Kyogo's more clear cut starting because I think that he's definitely been better against Rangers than Adamida. I know Adamida's played less games, but I think that Kyogo will benefit much more by being on the park. And even if you bring him on as an impact sub, he will cause absolute chaos to that Rangers defence. So yeah, Kyogo's got to be the main man.
Graham, do you think that looking ahead to next season for a wee minute or two, do you think Celtic will sign either? I've heard mixed reviews from Celtic fans about, I'm not really sure or whatever, but I think he's done a decent job since he's come in. And I mean, Mikey was saying there, like, I know we don't use this phrase too much, and so he's a good sub to bring on because he came on at Ibrox and he scored the goal.
Yeah, I mean, you can't disagree with what he's done so far. You know, he scored a really important goal at Motherwell as well when Celtic were getting beat. He has scored important goals, and he does offer something different. But I remember when he first signed, a lot of Celtic fans on Twitter were not happy, going, "Why are we signing this guy? You know, his goal scoring record at Norwich and that hasn't been great." But you know, he's going to score goals in Scotland because you should score goals in Scotland, especially playing for a club like Celtic. So I think Ida has definitely made a massive difference, and he does give that bit of physical presence. He's got a bit of pace as well. He has been causing problems. So yeah, I think if I'm Celtic and he wants to stay, I would definitely keep him because he definitely gives you something a bit different. He's got that physical presence that they just don't have up front. You know, O has been completely out of favour, but you know, there's no doubt Kyogo's the main man. But if you're going to keep Ida, I think it's a good signing because I think he has done very well.
Mikey, how nice would it be for all of the Celtic fans to send Joe Hart away with a double, but before he heads off into the sunset?
Well, I find this quite funny because Celtic fans all season have been getting on Joe Hart's back saying he's not good enough. And over the last few weeks, he's suddenly became incredible again because he's leaving. You know, that's naturally going to happen. Obviously, it'd be very, very good for a personal note, and he has a connection with the fans. You saw it at the St Mirren game, so it'd be a very, very positive thing. But yeah, I think always bowing out with a trophy is the best way to leave, and yeah, that would very much benefit both parties if he ends up getting a clean sheet and winning Celtic the cup.
Graham, is that a concern at the moment? How Celtic's not line or goalkeeper? I'm not saying that, you know, work is going on behind the scenes, but do you think that's a concern going into the Champions League next season?
Nah, I don't think so. It's still very early in this. It's not even pre-season yet. Celtic will have their eye on somebody. You know, I'm more surprised that Rangers are going to sign Liam Kelly because I just don't think that guy's good enough. And Stephen has said the same thing. That's a surprise for me. I don't think Celtic will be panicking at all. You know, there'll be plenty of options out that we look for. You know, when they had Barkas, that was a terrible signing. They've got to do better than that. There are keepers out there that they will try and sign. But at the moment, I don't think there's any real necessity to get that done quickly. They've got plenty of time. I'm sure the scouts were doing their homework and seeing who they want to bring in. But I don't think at the moment there's any panic at all.
Mikey, Philip Clement was talking yesterday at the media conference. I always like to see pictures of the managers because they were actually scanning a bit like two boxes, you know, and the cup in the middle as well. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, he was saying yesterday we now need to focus on this one and have a better start to the game because in all the games this season we haven't. And I suppose that's so and Graham mentioned it early on about you know they need to get off to a decent start because I mean Celtic has, you know, early starts in the game. I mean we all saw it with Maida at Ibrox.
Yeah, I think it's been a real pattern of the Old Firm games, especially since Clement came in. I mean, Celtic in every single Old Firm game, I think, have came out the traps very well. Rangers have taken a good 15-20 minutes to get out. Obviously, the advantage, not the advantage, the example at Celtic was the Maida goal. But in all the Old Firm derbies this season, Celtic have came out and could have been 2 or 3-0 up but within the first 10 minutes. And I think, yeah, he's definitely right, Clement, because as I said, if Celtic come out all guns blazing and get an early goal, the score could be very, very poor for Rangers. But I think that if Rangers start the game well, it really does set down a marker because Celtic have got a lot of their advantages in Old Firm games this season through the first sort of 15-20 minutes, setting the tempo and really Rangers just not coming out to meet them properly. So if Rangers can come out and set the tempo or even just sort of make it a scrappy first 15 minutes and stop Celtic getting into the rhythm, then it will very much benefit them compared to going 1 or 2-0 behind, which is what we've kind of seen in the first half of the season.
Graham, James Tavernier also was talking yesterday, and I don't know what the Rangers fans make of his comments. He says we need one more last push, but the key thing is when we get chances, we need to take them. Now listen is about that, Mikey, is one last push. I bet you if you were a Rangers fan, you would be saying, well, why are you not been pushing all season?
Yeah, I would probably say that as well. You know, I said it before. Rangers and Celtic fans want the league title. That's where the money is. That's where the glory is. One last push for the cup. Yes, I understand that, but they had chances to win that league. You know, the game against Motherwell, they got beat. The game against Dundee, they drew 0-0. The game against Ross County was the big one. Yep. Getting beat at Dingwall was an absolute shocker for them. And they look where Ross County are. So they should have done better in the league. Yep. I've heard a lot of Rangers fans not happy, which I completely understand. Yes, winning a cup double will be great. There's no debate about that. But the league is the one that they all want. And let's be honest, they did bottle it. They completely bottled it. So, I mean, Tavernier's got to say something to try and appease the fans. But if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm thinking the same thing. Why not push for the league? You know, that's the one we wanted and we didn't win it.
Yeah, that was exactly my point, Glenn, because like if you were thinking that, why come out and say it? You know, like and all that. But Mikey, I mean, just before we go on to the predictions come out, and I think I know what you're gonna say, but I'll ask you anyway, because I'm a very polite person that way, your prediction come out. But do you think if it wasn't for Jack Butland and goals, then it would have been worse this season? I mean, it tells you everything that the Rangers Player of the Year went to a goalkeeper.
Yes, I think that without Butland and Tavernier as well, I know that Rangers fans don't like his defensive abilities, but I think him and Butland have been the two sort of main players for them. Tavernier's got a lot of the important goals, and Butland's kept out a lot of the important moments. But the thing for me has just been the last, I'd say 4 or 5 seasons, the quality of the overall Scottish game, not just goalkeepers, but the entirety of the Scottish game has been on a pretty steady and difficult to watch decline. I think that the overall standard of play has been really poor. So bringing in somebody who's got that experience and that ability like Jack Butland is very, very positive for Rangers, because I think that in a time where the sort of standard of the league's going down, it's very important to have a goalkeeper who's going to keep out the shots. And I think they've really capitalised on that Jack Butland transfer. And I think that Jack Butland has been the one that's kept a lot of the Old Firm scores down. I bring back the one that was the 2-1 game. I think that Jack Butland stopped that from being 4-0 before it became 2-1. Like, it could have genuinely been 4 or 5-0 by the time Rangers scored their goal. And yeah, he's kept multiple points for Rangers this season. I look back at the Viaplay Cup final. He came up with a couple of big catches and big moments. Even if it's not saves, he's really commanding at the back. So yeah, Jack Butland's been absolutely excellent in my opinion.
Okay, so time to get off that fence, Mr. Duffy, because I know you like to sit on fences some at the weekends. Anyway, what do you think that the score? I don't know where that came from, but that's what do you think the score will be tomorrow?
I'm going to go 2-1 Celtic.
Mikey?
Celtic 3, Rangers 0. I'm not joking about that.
And I'm not just saying this, right, because your name's Mikey and my name's Michael, but I was thinking about 3-0 to Celtic as well. So there you go. We've got a few minutes left on the show, guys. We'll be back tomorrow after the game at 5 o'clock. And if the game goes into extra time, we'll be in after extra time, and we'll be on Sunday as well. Lots of overtime this weekend, Graham, actually. And also, we've got the Euros. Did I tell you that? Yep. So we have got a Euro preview show on the 9th of June at 5 o'clock. And also the Germany-Scotland game, it's on the 14th of June. If you need reminding, we'll be on from 10 o'clock that night. Scotland-Switzerland, 10 o'clock. And Scotland-Hungary, that I'm at 10 o'clock. It's a bit weird, Graham, that all the games at 8 o'clock kickoff. So write it down, or else whatever. And do join us for some fun and games. And also on the preview show on the 9th of June, Graham will be talking to the voice of Scottish football. In fact, you'll hear him tomorrow on TNT. The Viaplay, sorry, not TNT Sport. Rory Hamilton will be joining us on the show for that one. And hopefully we'll have Ian Emerson from the famous Taranami magazine as well. So a lot of football coming up, Graham, over the next few weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the final cut-off point will be for the Scotland squad, because obviously the provisional squad got selected. And there's a few folk that people are talking about. Ross McCrory getting a chance, Ryan Jack getting called up, Ben Doak getting called up. I think, personally, looking at it, I think Liam Kelly will get cut, and I think Ross McCrory will cut as well. I think he'll keep Ryan Jack in there and Ben Doak.
Mikey, is there any surprises in the squad for you?
Yes, the main one for me is Ryan Jack. I can accept the Liam Kelly one because we all know he's going to be getting dropped, and it's just sort of a number filler. Even having Ryan Jack as a number filler, there's multiple options that have been better than him this season. And the one criticism I would have of Steve Clarke is that he goes with what he knows. I could name 5 or 6 players that are even in his position that should be there ahead of him. I'll name a couple of the main ones. Obviously, David Watson's very young, but he's been better than Ryan Jack this season. You've got even Connor Barron, who's been, I think he deserves it more than Ryan Jack. Ryan Jack spent a lot of the season out injured. He's barely kicked a ball. And then while you're picking him with the likes of Blair Spittle and even the likes of Danny Armstrong, I think that even if you're like, I can see why you wouldn't choose the likes of Blair Spittle. But if you're wanting a player in from the Scottish leagues who has been good this season, you need somebody who's not Ryan Jack, because Ryan Jack's barely kicked a ball. So bring in somebody like a Blair Spittle, bring in someone who's done a very good job within the league and not just a name that you've had in the team before. I think it was a very lazy decision to bring Ryan Jack, and I think that multiple different people would have brought better attributes to the squad. I think that Ryan Jack is a very good player, but you can't bring someone who's barely kicked a ball. It reminds me of when Roy Hodgson brought Jack Wilshere in 2016 to the Euros. It's a very similar situation to that. And you can't just bring up players because of their name and that they've barely kicked a ball this season. So that's my opinion on it. And I think that there's multiple better options they could have went with. Sorry.
And also, one more, we've got the VAR, Graham's favourite subject to talk about on Wednesday night. Right, that's us, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks to Tony Haggerty. Thanks to Alice Aird from the Rangers Media. Thanks to Mikey. And thanks to Graham. And we'll do it all again tomorrow after Celtic and Rangers in the Scottish Cup final. Thanks for watching.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live